This is Darren Hinch. Yep, the same Darren Hinch, often referred to as the human headline. But allow me to introduce a person who, thanks to a City of Perth scholarship success last year, is giving me a run for my money. I'm talking about one of Australia's foremost forensic scientists, who's now something of a media personality herself. Not quite in my league yet, but she's getting there. Associate Professor Judith Fordham, barrister, forensic scientist and author. She joins you today to talk about what winning the 2010 City of Perth Convention Scholarship has meant to her. To outline the benefits the scholarship provides in building a profile within your field of endeavour, and how it has helped her to push a determined bid to host an international forensic science convention in Perth in 2014. I was going to sign off with, that's life, but forensics is more about death. So I'll just say, please welcome to the stage, Professor Judith Fordham.
How's that for an intro? Shall I sit down now? May as well. Well, good morning everyone. I've been asked to tell you something about myself and my own background. And I think to myself, why? And I think it's, just as we've heard earlier today, these scholarships allow Perth to be promoted, but also provide a lot of benefits for the individual. So, I want to tell you a little bit about my story. My story's not particularly remarkable. We've all got personal stories, excuse me, but for what it's worth, here we go. I remember as a little girl going to the Royal Easter Show. Anyone here from Sydney, New South Wales? Originally, now in the promised land, of course, but you know, you've learnt the error of your ways. All right, I remember going to the Royal Easter Show. It's like a show here, and my dad would always buy me a Kewpie doll. Anyone old enough to remember Kewpie dolls? Like my friend. Kewpie dolls, horrible, flammable things covered in sequins and sparkles. Little girls loved them. They came in a little cane. Every year, I would beg my father not to buy me one. And the reason I would beg my father not to buy me one was that when the Kewpie doll wore out, then he would take the cane and use it to punish me. That was where I started, you know? Everyone goes, oh, lawyer, you know, silver spoon, you know, everything's fine. No, that was where I started. My family was pretty revolting. My mum, no, true. My mum was a prescription drug addict. My father was violent. So that's where I started. That's my beginning of my little story. Then, of course, and we all know this, men marry women just like their mothers, don't they? At least the first time round. And women marry men just like their fathers. So I spent, at some point I acquired a science degree. I also acquired 4 children, a violent husband, not necessarily in that order. I think the husband probably came first. I'm fond of saying I worked out what caused it, so I left him, as in pregnancy. But that was, yeah, I spent a lot of time in poverty. I spent, let's see, there's the 4 kids, and I ended up leaving and applied to get into law school. Why would I do that, you might say? Well, it was that or supporting parent benefit and learn macrame, and I'm no good with my hands anyway. So I thought, all right, I can do words, and I can do words. So I applied to get into law school. This little one on the left was still in utero when I applied, and blow me down, the university took me. So I thought, okay, guess I better do it. After all, who'd want me? One of the things that happens when you're born into, I guess, a bad situation is you end up feeling that you're not a particularly worthwhile person. And that's the beginning of my story, okay? I really felt I was not a worthwhile person. So, into law school, get through law school, mostly by sleeping. I know osmosis is a scientific concept, but I think that's how I learned most of the stuff I learned in law school. I then, there was a door that opened. And one of the things about this scholarship is, of course, it's a door that's going to open for all the recipients. So the story of my life is either, I don't want to sound like a sportswear or sports footwear manufacturer, but it's either just do it, which I probably shouldn't say anymore, or just walk through those doors. Don't walk into them like it was suggested might have happened to me in the early years, but walk through them. So, end of law degree, and I visit Perth. Perth. I found Perth. I went to the Somerville Theatre, right? It's outdoors. It's warm. It's just amazing. See, I was in Canberra and I was born in Hobart, so you know what I mean, okay? Yeah. And the weather, like, it's May now. Look at, well, you can't see the weather outside because the blinds are shut, but this, every year I remind myself of why I live in Perth and why I came here. So, came here for a holiday, went back home, said to the kids, guys, we're leaving. We're going to Perth. And off we went to Perth. Had my law degree, hooked myself around various law firms with a very flamboyant reference from a very flamboyant QC, and found myself a job and was admitted as a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Western Australia, and that's the day of my admission. It's not the best photograph, but I was pretty skinny, so I like photographs, rather good from that point of view. And the kids, of course, are now much, much, much older. In fact, I'm a granny. At least 2 or 3 times over, I'm losing track. That's part of getting old too, you know that. Okay, so started my own firm, because that's what you do when you're no good at taking orders from anyone. One of the things I did learn in my background is I don't want to take orders from anybody. So I started my own firm, ended up doing a lot of criminal defence work, accusing police of various nefarious things, most of which they hadn't done, probably almost all of which they hadn't done, but it was fun, you know. You can say pretty much anything you want. Was one of Perth's first female criminal lawyers. In fact, Deb remembers me from her days at the Daily News. That's going back a bit. And then the West. And there weren't many women doing criminal law. I didn't think about that. I just thought, oh well, I like doing it, it's fun, I can go to court, and it's all really interesting. It really hit me though, a few things would happen. I'd have people come in saying, I want to see the boss, love. I'd go, I am the boss. No, I want to see the real boss. I am the real boss. All right, love, I want the real boss because I want to sell him a photocopier. Oh no, you're not selling me a photocopier. Anyway, I remember once I represented some bikies. You get these jobs, you know, and they're actually they pay their bills like you wouldn't believe. They're great. Okay. And I represented some bikies, and this particular chap, it was a trial, in fact it was my first introduction to forensics because there'd been a bombing. Anyone remember the mongrel mob coming to Perth? And the police didn't want the mongrel mob to come to Perth, and what happened was they left our gypsy jokers and other assorted bikies to their own devices a little bit, you know, live and let them persuade gently the mongrel mob to leave Perth. Unfortunately, their persuasion became a bit excessive when they bombed the mongrel mob's headquarters with 2 members of the mongrel mob in the headquarters. So I had the chap with explosives on his hands, literally caught red-handed. Well, that's what they told me. They said it was explosives. I thought, let's suss this out. And I went to a university and said, tell me about this test. It turned out the test was for nitrates. Nitrates, preservatives, fuel additives, garden fertiliser, salami. So, we won the trial, which you probably think wasn't justice, but never mind, I got him locked up for something else later on, so that's fine. But during the trial, and this is the point, I'm talking about the, being a girl thing. During the trial, my client came out and he said, that prosecutor, he says, he's a bloody woman. I said, the prosecutor's a woman, he's a bloody woman. I said, what do you mean? He said, couldn't cross-examine his way out of a paper bag. And I'm going, okay, maybe for once it's time to strike a blow for the cause. So I said, excuse me, has it occurred to you that I'm a woman? He looked at me as if I had gone stark, raving mad. He looked at me and said, no. He said, you're not a woman. He said, you've got balls, you're not a woman. To which I said, thank you. Because in his little world, that was an ace compliment. So that was my first intro to forensics. And I decided that to be a decent criminal lawyer, I needed to know something about forensic science. And that's always a bit scary for most lawyers, because lawyers do law because they don't get science. Scientists do science because they can't communicate. Now, that's a gross generalisation. And I've now offended pretty much everybody in the entire room, which is part of the course, so don't worry about it. And yeah, so I decided to go off to university and learn about forensics. Went to UWA, postgraduate degree in forensic science. It was when these postgrad forensics degrees were actually real science. And I remember going into the chemistry lectures. I hadn't done chemistry since I was at school, and that was like 20 years earlier or more. And I thought, oh, and there's this thing on the wall, the periodic table. I thought, I know that. Everyone remember the periodic table? Yeah. You know what those mongrels have done? There's all these new elements. They've shifted the goalposts on me yet again, and it's not fair. Okay, that's enough of that rant. But I was invited to do a PhD and ended up doing that on jury research, and got a permission from the Attorney General to speak to real jurors after real trials. And here we go, suddenly there's a bit of an image happening. People are all excited and interested, and I'm going, why me, why me? You know, I'm just me. But it's fun. It's such fun. And what I do now is I teach scientists how to handle the legal system, and I teach lawyers how to handle science. So, as I'm fond of saying, I'm bilingual. And I've done a lot of work with the police. It's been a case of, if you can't beat me, you may as well join me. So now I prosecute as well as defend. I work half-time at UWA as well, and I'm actually teaching out at the Police Academy, teaching senior detectives at the moment. And it's pretty cool fun. They tell me how much they used to hate me 20 years ago. And they tell me why, and I go, I forget, you know, I don't remember. And I just kept saying yes to things. And you know how you end up with party stories? You'll have stories you tell when you've had a couple of drinks and out to dinner. Not the stories you tell over breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I had all these party stories. And I sat on the plane next to a woman once, and I was telling her these stories after a couple of red wines, as you do. And she said, oh, you should write a book. And I said, oh, everyone always says that. And she said, well, actually, my best mate's a publisher. So next thing you know, I've written a book between the hours of 2 and 3:30 a.m. And yeah, that's the book. And again, the profile kept happening. I think there's a clip.
And your book, I love it. The title of your book, we've got it up there, Life Law.
And not enough shoes.
And not enough shoes. You're a shoe girl.
I'm a shoe nut.
Now,
Look.
this sort of flies in the face of legal lawyers and barristers, and so you run around the world and you see a pair of shoes and you just love them.
Look, isn't this not a thing of beauty?
Yeah.
Is this not delightful?
And you brought several in, and I know you've been travelling. But does that ever fly in the face of the credibility of a barrister and a forensic scientist?
Basically, I don't care. If it does, it makes me a real person, it makes me normal, it makes me female, it makes me human. And if people have got an issue with that, then they can go somewhere else for their help, can't they?
Yeah, indeed. No, I'm proud of you, because it's nice to know you've created your reality and you do things on your terms, and you're confident with what you can deliver. It's terrific to have you on the show. Congratulations on the book. It's a good, fun read. There's some great moments and some of the wonderful trials you've enjoyed and suffered through, but we do appreciate your time. Good morning.
Well, thank you.
So what do you do when you've done lots of stuff? You do more stuff. You keep saying yes to stuff. And I've never been a particularly physical person, but see that circle up there? That's me, jumping out of a helicopter without a life jacket. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So this particular thing, it was fun. We learned to do pursuit driving and shoot live ammunition at moving targets, and jump into the water out of a... That seemed awfully high. It doesn't look high. It felt very, very high. And, you know, just saying yes to things is just such fun, and life is such joy. I ended up with, saying yes to something else again. This is only last year, I think. New thing to do. I mean, ain't it fun? Isn't life wonderful? So, what next? I had qualifications. This is out of New Scientist. And I ended up going to lots of conferences and things. And because I've got one foot in law and social science research and the other foot in science, I ended up going to lots of conferences and couldn't afford to. And people weren't going to pay for me, although Alan Robson's here. I just thought I'd just have a go, may as well. And so I ended up with so many contacts, so many fantastic international networks for research and learning. You don't earn any money out of academia, I'm here to tell you, and those of you who are academics know that, but you have such freedom to pursue things that really matter. So, how am I going to get some money to go to places? I know I'll apply for the Perth Convention Bureau and City of Perth Scholarship, won't I? And I thought, what can happen? Worst can happen is they can say, go away, you're pathetic and hopeless, or they can say, ta-da, you are the winner, which is an amazing moment which quite a number of you are going to experience this morning. And what could I do for Perth and what could it do for me? Well, I'm off to Madeira in September, trying to get an international forensic science conference here in Perth, working my guts out, but also having a lot of fun doing it. We've just hosted the international president. We have, as I said to you over there, we've sucked up to him like you wouldn't believe, which is, you know, lawyers speak for whatever, you know, we sucked up to him. That's what you do, isn't it? That's how you persuade people. And of course, the weather. We had him here in March. There's no more beautiful time in Perth than March, unless it's April or May. So, what comes next? It's helped me. It's helped me personally. It helps me sell books, you know, and I actually haven't made much money out of the book, but it's on a second print run, and I've got a Hollywood producer working on a script for a 13-part mini-series. It may or may not happen because someone's got to pay for it. If anyone's got any money to invest, see me afterwards. Okay, so after that, what happens? New skills. I learned to make coffee, don't I? Because there's this story about how I, as a barista, am brewing up a plan to get a conference in Perth, and then Inside Cover picks it up. Obviously, barista and barrister are very closely aligned. So I've learned to make coffee. I've also, the really important thing, any ladies who win this scholarship, it leads to massive weight loss. That's me this time last year. True, that's me getting my award. It leads to massive weight loss, and for that I am truly grateful. That's probably the most important benefit. So, what can I say? Take every opportunity. All of you awardees, it's going to open doors for you. Walk through those doors, get excited, have fun. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Judith Fordham, an old friend of mine, and it's great to see you again. And please put your hands together one more time.